Let's talk about motivation. Businesses have outcomes that they're trying to achieve: make money, reduce cost, get customers, retain customers, produce products, services, etc. And depending on where you are in your leadership experience, you may be the one who's setting the strategy around that. Or you may be responsible for implementing it or helping implement and achieve those outcomes. Motivation is going to be a critical component, motivating yourself and motivating others. Motivation is essentially that willingness to take action towards achieving something. And it typically falls in two categories. There are more types of motivation, but let's stick with the top two: extrinsic and intrinsic. So, extrinsic motivation, things like money, rewards, accolades, acknowledgement, praise, and intrinsic, that's that fulfilling feeling, that like pleasure that you take from actually accomplishing something. It's generally up to an individual to get intrinsic motivation, but as a leader, you can actually guide people towards both. So, Benjamin Hardy, in his Be Your Future Self Now, says that there's always a why or a goal behind human behavior, and that your behavior follows purpose. And 80% of people are primarily driven by fear and avoidance, while 20% are driven by approach and courage. The example that he gives is it's the difference between going to work because you need to pay your bills or going to work in order to get a promotion and do something else in life. The thing here is, as a leader, it's pretty easy to use fear or avoidance of a penalty or punishment in order to motivate people. That is not boss leader behavior. You really want to look at how can I motivate people without causing fear or without them fearing punishment or reprisal. The other thing is, when you are setting a strategy, you tend to have a really good vision and it's longer term and you can kind of understand what it's going to take to get from here to there. Most people are not like that. And so if you didn't set the strategy, you're trying to implement a strategy that somebody else has put out there, you got to keep in mind that people are driven more towards short-term goals. And even if you have a longer term goal, the best advice is break it down, make it manageable, make them achievable in smaller quantities. And so, as a leader, what you're going to want to help people do is that if you're looking to motivate towards a particular strategy or outcome, make sure that you can break it down and paint the picture for people along the way. So, how can you go about this? I would always say start with yourself. Get clear on who you are and know what motivates you. Make sure you have the appropriate systems in place to support and stay properly motivated. And then look towards your team, the team that you are trying to motivate. Learn what motivates them. There's a good chance that what motivates your team is going to be different than what motivates you. And there are individuals on the team, so they might even have differences in what motivate them. Learning that and working towards that, kind of pulling those pieces together, is essential. As Margaret Heffernan says, you have to talk to people about something that makes a difference to them if you want them to bring them best selves. And so that's what you're looking for. Can you uncover the puzzle pieces of what would make a difference to an individual, a small team, or a particular department or division? I mean, sometimes it's a little bit obvious. A sales team most often is motivated by money and competition. A customer service team, on the other hand, might be motivated by things like being of service, making a difference, showing value by solving somebody else's problems. An engineering team might be motivated by time to actually focus on what they're trying to develop or problem they're trying to solve. Those are very simplistic, but there are variations out there, and knowing your team and what motivates them is going to be really important to helping you achieve success. You want to also help the team understand, you know, maybe there is something that you're trying to achieve that is not going to be meaningful to them. Maybe you're a department that is enabling another department's goals, or maybe the company's objective is frankly not that pleasant for your team. You can break that down, and the quality of a good leader is to find ways to share that message. I personally believe that there's something very compelling about a leader who kind of lays it on the line, who's transparent and authentic in their communication. So if you have some sort of objective that maybe isn't going to be that great for your team, share that and then help them rally behind it. When you can articulate that, people tend to lean in and they'll want to support you even when it's not the best outcome or goal for their particular team or group. For example, I once led a small team. We pretty much hated our leadership, the senior executives in the company. They were very pushy, greedy people. Anytime we had a success, maybe we won a deal or we got a compliment from a customer, they'd say, "Great, how do you do more of that?" They never paused to be, just in acknowledgement that we had achieved something, to say, "Thank you, that's great, we appreciate it." And so I encourage you to remember that as you go through this, as you're motivating people, remember to recognize their contributions and just pause and appreciate that. Don't add on to it immediately after, "Yes, we need more of," or "What else can we do," sort of commentary. In this particular team, I hated the daily routine where we were just sort of like eking out progress. And so, as their team leader, I spent a lot of time researching and trying to find different ways to motivate because we didn't have budget. We worked for a company that, even if they had the finances to do it, were not interested in extrinsically motivating through rewards or money compensation, etc. So we were looking for ways to motivate ourselves in a very tough environment. And it turns out that level setting, just everybody acknowledging that what we had to do was hard, that nobody was really going to appreciate our results when we achieved them, that helped us gel. And it helped us say, "Hey, I've got your back." Regardless of the circumstances or the type of situation that we're in, I've got your back. And we were motivated together because of that. So keep that in mind. As a leader, you can find ways to really help motivate yourself and your team, even in the toughest of circumstances. Let's summarize this then. You've got making sure that you break down the big picture, help people find ways to achieve things in smaller amounts, smaller goals, and make sure that you're staying on top of helping people be aware of it. This should not be buried. You want really public awareness of what it is you're trying to achieve and how you're doing on it. You want to regularly compliment and recognize people who are making progress against that particular objective or goal. And then you really want to make sure that you're looking at varying techniques, the motivation techniques that you're using across the team and with different team members. Some pretty common advice is just start. Like, if people are struggling with the motivation, if you're struggling with the motivation, just get started. You may have to try that a couple times to get motivated, or you may find that you get started, you go down a rabbit hole, and suddenly you're on the path and you're working towards an objective and an outcome. I'll always say, if you're unmotivated, go learn about motivation, study the experts, read books, talk to people who seem motivated, and do the same. Help your team do the same. Until next time, I'll see you at bossatthehelm.com.